It started with rain. Not a soft drizzle, the kind that kisses the windows and makes you want to butt a cold. Relentless storm that made the sky look angry. Like it was morning, something. Ellie pushed open her creaky front door that Tuesday morning and paused. There. On her porch, soaked to the bone and shaking like a leaf in the wind, sat a dog. No collar, no tags. No name, just ... eyes. Eyes that looked up at her like he was asking a question he'd asked 100 people before. "Will you leave me too?" She froze, not out of fear, but because something inside her, something deep, tightened like a knot. The kind of knot grief leaves behind. The kind of knot only love can untangle. The dog didn't bark, didn't growl, just sat there, silent, drenched, defeated. Ellie knelt slowly. "Hey, buddy," she whispered. "Where'd you come from?" She extended her hand. He flinched, then crept forward, sniffed her fingers, and leaned into her. Not just a nuzzle, this was a collapse. Like every ounce of strength had been spent just getting to that doorstep. As if he'd held on just long enough to find someone who might care. Ellie wrapped him in an old towel. His ribs pressed through his muddy fur. His legs wobbled when she tried to stand him up. He didn't resist. He just trusted. Instantly, completely, like she was his last chance at a world that had forgotten him. She carried him inside. The warmth of her living room hit him like a wave. He didn't react. No tail wag, no curious sniffing. He simply curled into the corner like he was trying to disappear. Ellie worked in a vet clinic. She'd seen plenty of abandoned dogs, but this one, he felt different, quiet, soulful, watchful. She set down a bowl of chicken broth and whispered, "Eat, love, you're safe here." He didn't move, not until she stepped back. Then, with trembling steps, he approached the bowl and drank like his life depended on it. Maybe it did. That night, as the storm roared outside, Ellie sat on the couch. Her senior lab, Molly, snoozed by the fireplace. Her 2 rescue cats watched from a cautious distance, and the newcomer. He sat across the room, still staring right at her. Like he was memorizing her face. She tried not to get attached. She told herself, "He's just here for one night. Tomorrow, I'll call the shelter." But when she got up to brush her teeth, he followed her. When she walked down the hall, he matched every step. When she paused at her bedroom door, he sat beside her and placed one paw on her foot. Just one. She felt it in her chest, a silent plea. I can't keep you," she murmured. The dog didn't move. "Okay, just tonight," she whispered, giving in. "You can stay." Just one night. She laid out an old blanket in the laundry room, made a little bed, turned off the light. But then came the sound, a low, broken whine. Not a tantrum, not the kind of bark you ignore. This was different. This was pain. It's the pain of being left behind. Dash again. Ellie sighed, pulled her robe tighter, and opened the door. The dog stopped instantly. She stared at him. He stared back. Those eyes. Without another word. She brought the blanket into her bedroom and laid it by her bed. He followed like a shadow. Sat, waited. She slid under the covers. He curled up right beside her bed, not on it, not near the door, but close enough that his nose could just barely touch her fingers as they dangled off the edge. She whispered, "Shadow, that's your name now." He closed his eyes. And for the first time since he arrived, he slept. A deep, peaceful sleep. No twitching. No barking. No startles, just breathing. Slow, steady, safe. As if he knew, in one day, what some people never figure out in a lifetime. Home isn't a place, it's a person. The morning came quiet. No rain, no thunder, just soft light pouring through the wast. Curtains and the gentle sound of Shadow breathing beside the bed. Ellie opened her eyes. Her hand had slipped off the mattress in the night. And there it was, his nose, still touching her fingers, as if he hadn't moved once. She smiled before she could stop herself. He was still asleep, curled tightly, but not in fear. This was comfort. Like a child who finally felt safe. Ellie sat up, careful not to disturb him. She slipped into her slippers, moved slowly toward the kitchen. She didn't even reach the hallway before she heard the soft pat of paws behind her. Shadow was awake, and, following she made coffee. He watched. She fed the cats. He waited when she poured Molly's food. Shadow didn't rush forward. He didn't beg. He simply sat next to Ellie, tail wagging once, then still again, like he wanted to be part of the rhythm, but not cause a ripple. She gave him a scoop of wet food. He ate quietly, glancing up between bites, as if checking, is this still okay? Am I still allowed to be here? By mid-morning, Ellie had to leave for work. Just a half-day shift at the clinic. She hesitated at the door. He stood by it already, sitting alert, his eyes searching hers. I have to go, sweet boy, she said gently. I'll be back. He didn't bark, didn't whine. But as she pulled, the door closed behind her. She saw it. His face right there in the crack. Those eyes staring until the last sliver of daylight between them was gone. It's just one night, she reminded herself. He's not mine. But by the time her shift ended, she was already checking her phone twice, scrolling through pictures she'd taken of him that morning, his head poking out of the blanket. His eyes watching her as she brushed her teeth. She'd told the shelter she might bring in a stray today. They were expecting him. On the drive home, she practiced her goodbye in her head, but when she opened the door, her goodbye melted, because there he was, right at the threshold, tail thumping the floor once, then again. Then he bolted forward, not jumping, not barking, pressing his head into her hip like he'd waited all his life for her to come back. And just like that, Ellie knew. He remembered. He had hoped, and now he was sure. This was home. They spent the afternoon together. He lay at her feet while she answered emails. When she got up to do laundry, he followed. When she sat on the porch with tea, he leaned against her legs, facing the wind like a guardian. That evening, Ellie grabbed the blanket again, ready to make up his bed near hers. But when she placed it down and turned off the light, the same soft whine echoed through the room. She didn't hesitate this time. All right, she said, smiling in the dark. You win. She reached down, patting the floor. Shadow nestled into his spot by the bed again, resting his nose right where her hand could reach it, and that's where he stayed all night. Still, peaceful, steady. The next morning, the sun was brighter. The world was drier. And Ellie stood frozen in her hallway, phone to her ear. The shelter had space. She could bring Shadow in today. It was what she said she'd do. It was the plan. And yet, when she glanced over, he was already sitting by the door, tail tapping gently against the mat, ready to go, trusting her completely. She loaded him into the car, one hand resting on his back before she closed the door. No leash needed. He followed her willingly, like always. But in the rearview mirror, she saw it. Shadow wasn't looking at the road. He was looking at her. Those same eyes, those same silent questions. Are you leaving me now? She swallowed hard, focused on the wheel. You'll be okay, she whispered. They'll find someone great for you. He lay down in the back seat, not restless, just resigned, like he'd already been through this, like he'd known deep down that this was too good to last. Halfway there, she stopped at a red light and turned to check on him. He was sitting up, eyes locked onto hers, wet, not loud, not dramatic, just grief in its purest form. That's when it hit her. He wasn't following her because she fed him. He wasn't sleeping beside her because she let him. He wasn't quiet because he was scared. He was quiet because he was hoping, because, for him, one day of love had been enough, enough to believe, enough to belong. Ellie turned the car around. She didn't say a word. But when the tires rolled back into her driveway, Shadow sat up straight, ears perked, tail thumping. She opened the back door. He didn't run. He walked right to her side, right to the front steps, and sat as if to say. Finally, she opened the door. He stepped in, And this time, she didn't close it behind him like a guest. She let it stay open like home because that's what it was. And in just one day, they both knew it. Shadow was home, no longer a stranger, no longer a guest. He moved through Ellie's house like he'd lived there forever. But he never forgot his place. He didn't jump on couches, didn't chew things, didn't bark at the door. He simply followed. Ellie, dot everywhere, dot to the kitchen, dot to the mailbox, dot to the bathroom door, where he waited patiently, nose just peeking underneath, when she cooked. He sat a few feet away, watching, always watching, but never begging, never demanding. Just present. Molly, the old Labrador, had accepted him. Vets were still cautious, but curious. Ellie watched as one of them, Jasper, brushed against Shadow's leg. He didn't even blink. Gentle, that's what he was. Like a dog who knew what it cost to be too loud. Like he'd learned, somewhere in a hard past, that survival meant silence. It made Ellie's heart ache. And yet, he was healing. Fast his fur started to grow back. The color returned to his eyes, even wagged his tail when Ellie came home, bouncing slightly on his front paws like a pup. She laughed the first time he did it. "Look at you," she whispered. "You're learning joy." But the world wasn't done testing them. 2 weeks in, Ellie got a call. Her landlord. There'd been a complaint. Too many animals. They said 3 was the limit. Ellie had 4. And Shadow, the newest unregistered, 1 was the problem. "You'll have to make arrangements," the landlord said coldly. Arrangements. Ellie stared at Shadow, who was lying on the floor near her desk, eyes half closed but still tracking her every move. Arrangements. That night, Ellie sat in bed staring at the ceiling. She didn't sleep because the choice haunted her. She could keep her home or keep him. But Shadow didn't know that the next morning. He followed her into the kitchen, as always. He sat, as always. He waited, as always, and when she knelt to pour his food, he rested his head on her shoulder. Just once, just long enough to remind her he trusted her. Ellie's heart cracked wide open. Still, she made the call. The same shelter she'd spoken to before. They remembered. Shadow. There was space again. They'd take him in the morning. She didn't cry when she hung up. Not. Yet that evening, she packed a small bag. Food, blanket, the toy he never touched. She placed it all by the door. Shadow watched, but didn't move. She didn't eat dinner, neither did he. She tried to sleep. Shadow curled beside the bed, but her heart pounded too loudly. She kept seeing his face in the mirror, his eyes. In the dark, "Are you going to leave me now?" Morning came, clear and quiet. Too quiet. Ellie loaded the bag into the car. Shadow jumped in, willingly. He sat upright this time, not lying down, as if he wanted to face what was coming. She drove in silence. The shelter was only 20 minutes away. Each minute felt like a betrayal. 10 minutes in, she looked back. He was still watching her, still believing, still hoping. 15 minutes in, she gripped the wheel tighter. She couldn't breathe. At a red light. She turned. He was sitting tall. His eyes met hers, and in them she didn't see fear. She saw surrender. He wasn't asking anymore. He already knew. Ellie's throat tightened. She pulled the car, over-parked. Her hands shook as she reached back and stroked his fur. "I can't do it," she whispered. "I can't let you go." Shadow blinked. Then one soft wag of his tail. That was all. One. Like he'd been holding his breath this entire time, waiting for her to choose, not out of need, out of love. She turned the car around, didn't say another word. When they pulled into the driveway, Shadow stood. Not excited, not frantic, but ready. He stepped out slowly, walked beside her. Back through the front door, back into the only place that had ever felt like his. Ellie sank to the floor inside the hallway. Shadow sat next to her. She rested her forehead against his. "I'll figure it out," she whispered, "even if it costs me everything." "You're not leaving." He didn't understand the words, but he understood her voice, and that was enough. He laid down beside her, pressing into her side. Quiet, peaceful home. Again, 4. Good. Asterisk, the decision was made. Shadow was staying. Ellie didn't have a plan. No backup. No clever fix. But her heart had drawn the line and she knew she'd stand by it no matter the cost. Over the next week, she started calling apartments, sending emails, asking friends. Her home of 5 years might no longer be hers, but Shadow was, and he knew. He never left her side. Where she paced, he followed. Where she sat, he rested. Where she cried, he pressed his head into her lap and stayed there. As if holding her together with his silence, Molly grew slower. Her legs stiff, her tail lazier. Shadow often lay next to her, their bodies pressed together, the old dog and the young one. A quiet passing of torch. A quiet act of loyalty. Ellie finally found a rental on the edge of town. Smaller, older, but pet-friendly. She signed the papers without blinking. 2 weeks later, boxes were stacked to the ceiling. Moving day came like a storm. Friends carried furniture. Cats were crated. Molly rode in Ellie's car. Shadow. He didn't need a leash. He climbed in on his own, curling up in the back seat. When they reached the new place, he leaped out and immediately began exploring. Not wildly carefully, thoughtfully, as if he were inspecting the space to see if it would be good enough for her. That night, they sat on the porch together. No chairs yet, just an old rug and each other. The stars came out slowly. Shadow rested his head on her feet, and Ellie whispered, "This is home now." He wagged once, just once. But that was his way. Weeks passed. They settled in. The rhythm returned. Ellie worked mornings at the clinic. Shadow waited at the door every day until she returned. Every single day. Once she came home an hour late. The power had gone out. Her phone was dead. She rushed back, fearing the worst. But Shadow was there, sitting by the door, eyes fixed on it, waiting, still, believing she'd come. 1 hour, 10 hours, a day he would have waited forever. And then, one day, it happened. A call, a car accident on the highway. A man and his daughter. Injured but stable. And their dog missing, a large tan mutt. No collar. No chip. Last seen limping into the trees. The man was desperate. He sent photos to every shelter in the county. One of the techs at Clee's clinic showed her the email. Look familiar. They asked. She froze. It was him, Shadow. Same eyes, same scar under the left ear. Same wiry coat. Everything. Her heart dropped. She showed the photo to Shadow that night. He stared at it, then looked at. But he didn't wag, didn't react. Just looked. The next morning, she made the hardest call of her life. The man answered on the first ring. His voice cracked when she told him, "Oh God," he whispered. "He's alive," Ellie swallowed. "Yes, he's been with me." "I thought we'd lost him," the man said. "My daughter, she's been praying for him every night." They arranged to meet the next day. Ellie barely slept. Morning came too fast. She packed Shadow's blanket, his bowl, the toy he never used. The drive to the meeting spot was quiet. Shadow lay still in the back, not worried, but watchful. As always, they arrived at a park. Trees, grass, sunlight. Everywhere, and there waiting was a man and a little girl. The second Shadow stepped out, the girl gasped, "Boomer." She ran forward, crying. Shadow stood, stiff, staring. She dropped to her knees. "Boomer, it's me. It's Sophie." He took one step, then another. And then he was running full speed into her arms. He licked her face. She sobbed into his neck. The man joined them, kneeling beside his daughter. "Hey, buddy," he choked. "Hey, boy." Shadow Boomer pressed into both of them, tail finally wagging wild. Legs trembling. Ellie stood frozen. Watching, heartbreaking. Heart full, she knelt and whispered, You found your way back. Boomer turned to her, walked back, and sat right in front of her, looking up, waiting as if asking, "What do you want me to do?" Ellie smiled through tears. She reached out, stroked his face. "You belong to them," she whispered. He leaned into her. Hand one last time, then turned and walked back to the family he had lost. 1 week later, box arrived at Ellie's door. Inside was a photo of Shadow Boomer curled up beside the little girl. A letter, handwritten. "We owe you everything. You gave him what we couldn't, a reason to hope, a reason to trust again. Thank you for loving him like he was yours, 'cause for a little while he was." Ellie cried, not because she lost him, but because she'd helped him find his way. Even if just for one day. Moral: sometimes a single day of love can leave a mark deeper than a lifetime. Because when a dog chooses you, even for a moment, it's forever.